A lot of changes have happened for the Phoenix Suns franchise in the last 4 months, from new ownership to a blockbuster trade to a firing of a head coach to the hiring of a head coach to hiring of 2 assistants, whom, by the way, I really like, along with the hiring of Frank Vogel. But the biggest of said changes is obviously new ownership with Mat Ishbia. We went from an owner that I'm pretty sure no Suns fan actually liked, and Robert Sarver, to what seems to be a really willing owner to really move things forward for this team. And honestly, I didn't know a whole lot about Mat Ishbia other than that he was a former Michigan State player. He played Michigan State under Tom Izzo for those national championships. Other than that, I didn't know who the guy was. I just knew that he was willing to make changes and willing to do the things to win a championship. But even with that, the other day I was thinking, who is Mat Ishbia and what is he all about? Honestly, this team is going to live or die with Mat Ishbia. There was a lot of rumors going around. Woj even said that as soon as Mat Ishbia came in, he was running the show. James Jones really wasn't in charge. It's all the Mat Ishbia show. So once again, it had me thinking, what is Mat Ishbia about? So I actually did a lot of research on Mat Ishbia, the company that he owns, from interviews that he's done, and I tried to learn, are the Phoenix Suns really in good hands? Well, let's find out. As I mentioned before, Mat Ishbia played for those early 2000s Michigan State Spartan teams coached by Tom Izzo. To be exact, he played for the national championship team. Mat Ishbia didn't exactly start, but he did play with a lot of those guys. He was a walk-on 5'9" point guard. You're not going to get a whole lot of playing time, but regardless, he walked on, worked his butt off, and made the team. And that just says a lot about a person's hard work and perseverance. Soon after his college career, Mat Ishbia went on to basically take over his dad's homegrown business and grew it into what we know as now a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. And you might be asking yourself, why are you mentioning him taking his homegrown business into being a multi-billion-dollar company? Well, that's really important because he mentioned a lot of things in his interviews, such as building a work culture, learning how to take care of your employees, learning to care for your employees, wanting to innovate, wanting to always be ahead of the curve. A lot of good business sense, and he wants to take that into the Suns culture. So basically, I had to go look at a bunch of Mat Ishbia interviews and do a bunch of research to basically kind of get an idea of what's going to happen with this team in the future. One of the things that I learned is that Mat Ishbia wants to set a culture positive, innovative, and vibrant. He wants to care for his employees. He wants to care for his ball players. He wants to care for his staff. He wants to treat his staff well, which is a far cry from what we've heard and the rumors that we've heard about Robert Sarver, which he would just razz his employees. He would literally harass. They would have roasting sessions for each other. And obviously that didn't bode well for the environment for the Phoenix Suns. The man was basically gone because of it. Another thing that Mat Ishbia is going to bring to this team, he wants to bring structure. He wants to get more done in less time, which brings me to the Kevin Durant trade. Mat Ishbia, as soon as he bought the team, he went to James Jones and said, hey, what will it take to get the Kevin Durant trade done? He facilitated the deal, and basically he got it done, and he wanted to get more done in less time. Sounds familiar with this Kevin Durant trade, right? He also wants to take risk in innovation. Decide fast, change often was one of his slogans. Decide fast, change often. Once again, that is representative of, what he did with the Kevin Durant trade. As soon as he got here, he decided fast, changed the situation quickly. He's okay with setting big goals. One of the quotes that he said was, he's not working to be number 2 at anything. Well, once again, what do we know about the Kevin Durant trade? He set a big goal. He got it done. And he doesn't want to be number 2 at anything. Now, granted, the season didn't end the way that we wanted it to end. But as Gabe mentioned in the video before, we are right now the only team who's put 2 games on the Denver Nuggets, who basically walked their way through the West. So I personally think it's a positive thing that we have an owner who's willing to basically take big chances. Now, will it get us in trouble with this new CBA? That remains to be told. It's sort of looking that way, but I do believe they will figure out a way. he's putting a staff together to figure out ways to make things happen, wants to be innovative, wants to decide fast, change often. He's going to put people in place to look at the CBA and say, what can we do to get an extra edge? He's going to ask James Jones, what can we do? How can we fit players into this new CBA, into this salary cap? I have confidence he's going to make it happen. Another interesting thing that he brought up that I found was really interesting, and a lot of this is also speculation, but one of the rumors was that as soon as Mat Ishbia got here, him and Monty Williams did not gel well at all. A lot of people think it's because of getting blown out in game 6 in the semifinals, and then the year before getting blown out by the Mavs in the semifinals again. A lot of people think that's it, but I think Mat Ishbia made his decision a long time ago. And once again, this is all speculation, but there was a lot of things that Mat Ishbia said about people's work ethic. He will have meetings, multiple meetings throughout the day, and even if they're 10 minutes, he will make sure that he is on time, and he doesn't like it when people short him on time. He doesn't like it when people are late. One of the quotes that he said is, if someone is late to a meeting, where else are they cutting corners? He values others' time as well, as long as communicating. He wants communication excellence. Another quote he said is, showing people you're available and that you care is the most important thing you can do as a leader. Showing people you're available and that you care is the most important thing you can do as a leader. Once again, this is speculation, but I can sort of speculate maybe why Monty Williams had to be let go. I don't know what happened within the organization. I don't know if he was late to a meeting or something. Maybe he could have been, but the quote, showing people you're available and that you care is the most important thing you can do as the leader. What was the one thing that Monty was questioned about this offseason or coming back to preseason? Have you talked to DeAndre Ayton? And what did Monty Williams say? Well, I really don't talk to anybody in the offseason. You don't think that matters to Mat Ishbia? You don't think that matters to a new owner coming in who wants to have solid communication? You don't think Monty Williams being stuck in his ways and not changing and maybe not really wanting to communicate with the owner? It could have been because he was used to not communicating with Robert Sarver, because Sarver seemed to be hands off, just save me money type of attitude. But, you know, Monty Williams, I could really see Monty Williams not communicating well, being stuck in his ways, and Mat Ishbia just said, all right, this dude doesn't care. Like, he's just got to go. I could really see that happening. Mat Ishbia values genuine people who will challenge him and progress his culture. So once again, like, we know that Monty Williams is a really genuine person. Nobody can doubt that. He is probably one of the best people in the NBA, right? People always talk about how much of a great guy he is. Players love him. People love him. I like him. I've heard him in every interview. He seems like a great guy. But Mat Ishbia wants people who will challenge him. Once again, speculation, but Monty Williams doesn't seem the kind of guy that would butt heads and want to challenge people, right? He wants to encourage, but he wouldn't seem like much of a challenger. So I could see a lot of reasons why Mat Ishbia would have let Monty Williams go, or why they would have butted heads, or why they wouldn't have seen eye to eye. I mean, my mom always said, listen to somebody talk long enough and they'll tell you who you are. And Mat Ishbia seems to be a person who really likes integrity, who really wants communication, who really wants people to challenge him as well as him challenge people. And we all just know that Monty Williams might have just been a little too lax, right? He might have been a little too lax on the coaching. He might have been a little too easy. And they probably, just personality wise, they just didn't fit. And Mat Ishbia showed up and said, hey, I want a coach who's going to fit my personality, who's going to challenge me while I challenge them and bite back. And Monty Williams just probably wasn't that guy. It's not a bad thing. Just Mat Ishbia felt changes needed to be made. He definitely felt changes were needed to be made. And I can speculate by what he has said in his past interviews that there was a change that needed to be made. And so after going through a few interviews, I mean, Mat Ishbia in a lot of these interviews said the same things over and over again. And like I said, my mom always had a quote: if somebody tells you something long enough, believe them. If somebody tells you something long enough, they're going to tell you about themselves. And so a lot of his interviews were always talked about the culture. He always talked about experience. He always talked about caring and being a good leader and caring for the little man and creating a great positive environment, which I feel is perfect for the Phoenix Suns. I had one quote here that I wrote down in my notes, and I wanted to say this. Mat Ishbia and his culture, experience, and upbringing makes him very relatable in multiple settings. As I mentioned before, him coming up from middle class to being a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company makes him very relatable. He seems to not have forgotten his roots at all. And that's one thing I really like about him, that he came from a little man to a big man, and he still communicates with his past people. He still talks to his teammates from Michigan State all the time, he says. He still talks to Tom Izzo. So he hasn't forgotten his roots as he's moved up in the corporate ladder, per se. One thing that I think is going to make him relatable to players and people on his staff is that he was a big proponent of Black Lives Matter, the movement, not the company. Let's just make that clear, but the movement. And I know Third Reich Sundo is here, but let's be honest, like the majority of players in the NBA are black players. So having an owner that you know is going to have your back in certain situations is really positive for players. That stuff really matters. You may not think it matters. You may not want to say, don't get political, Sundo, but like that stuff matters to NBA players. And another note, like I mentioned, the suburban upbringing, middle class upbringing also makes him relatable to his staff. He can relate to them. He can relate to the life situations. He can relate and remember, I remember what it was like growing up being a middle class citizen. So like him from the suburban upbringing to a multi-billionaire CEO, once again, I feel is paramount for the culture of the Suns. I really do think we're in good hands. And yes, this team will live or die with his decisions, but I have faith in those decisions based on the person that he is, the culture he wants to set. He always wants to get better. He had that quote saying, I don't want to be number 2 at anything. I feel like this team is in great hands. So let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think about new owner Mat Ishbia? Do you like the way he's moved as soon as he's gotten here? Do you like the Kevin Durant trade? Do you like the Monty Williams firing? Do you have faith that he's going to move the Suns forward in the future in a good way, in a big way? Do you think he's going to treat his players right? Do you think he's going to treat his staff right? Do you think he's going to make the right moves to make this team successful and to win a championship? I feel like he does. He seems like a really competitive person. He seems like a really positive person. He seems like the right exact owner for the Phoenix Suns from one ownership to the next. This is the perfect guy in my opinion. So once again, the Suns will live or die by this guy, and I feel completely comfortable trusting this owner with the team moving forward. Let me know what you think in the comments. This has been Sundo. I can't believe I actually made a video for once in my entire life. So appreciate y'all. Have a good one. We'll see you on, I guess, the next live stream that we do or the next video we do. Peace.